What is up? It's Mason. Welcome back to our coverage of the AYCC, that is the African Youth Chess Championships. Again, we are continuing with part 1, mainly because there are mini games that went on per round, and also we want to get as many people as we can. We could have just looked for only the best games or the best leveled games and analyze them, but we want to get as many people as we can on the board and also look at the creativity of some of these players. So let's get on with this game. This is from, again, I've said already, round 1, and this is a game between Soojay Josiah versus Tagboto Philip. And the game begins with e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, c3, and from chess.com it says it's the Ponziani opening. I've never actually seen this move order, especially with e4, e5 openings. Of course, I left e4, e5 openings, so I wouldn't have seen this anymore. But I do know this idea with bishop on f4 or with the relopes, the Italian relopes. So we have here knight to f6, d4, e takes d4, and then e5. Very nice here. An 8-year-old or lower than 8-year-old playing a gambit, and that's going to be something to see. So there are two things we expect to see here: utter decimation of black side, or white collapses. That's what some gambits can do to you, but it's very spicy. So let's go. We have knight d5, getting away from the attack. Queen to b3, prepping for an attack, attacking the knight, but mostly x-raying the pawn on f6, on f7, sorry. Then we have knight d to e7, which is not the kind of move you want to make, because like we said, the target is here. So playing a move like knight here blocks your sole defender of that square. It's most likely that the only thing that could help you is your bishop and your queen. So blocking off your queen from the defense of this pawn is going to be very, very, very dramatic. You could get bishop here targeting this, and then after that knight to g5 targeting this same f6 pawn. So in hindsight, I guess you could say black should have played something like knight to b6, guarding this square and slowing down black's idea, because knight here can simply be met with queen here, and now you've guarded most of the moves that will disturb you. Maybe knight, this move, okay, wouldn't even work because knight just takes, and this black holds. Black can hold this kind of position, so knight to b6 kind of makes a lot of sense, but sadly black didn't see that. He just went for the cocoon move, and now we have c takes d4, which is also inaccurate. Just continue with your attack. You could simply go again bishop here or knight to g5. Both moves are fine. The only defensive move your opponent really has here is d5, so you can just think about which move order you want to go, whether knight here first or this first. It's going to be difficult for your opponent to prove any sort of defensive value here. So c takes d4, just trying to get more pieces in the center, which is never a bad idea. And now we have knight to f5, bishop to c4, and then knight to h6. Now, bishop to c4 is a simple idea here. We are going to take this, check your king, force your king into the center, and take away castling from you. These pawns are just deadly. They can actually add up in the attack. So black makes the correct idea, which is to defend the f6 square. I mean, you have to defend this square at all costs. So knight to h6 is a very good move to defend the f6 square, but he misses a very key tactic here, which is called the removal of the defender. We have knight takes h6, and you shouldn't even take this pawn. You should defend. But black, like I said, he was completely blindsided and didn't see the terror that was gonna before him. And now we have bishop takes h7 check, king to e7 and d5, and yeah, you are literally getting messed up here. You can't take this pawn. You can, but it's still a discovered attack. Many things are coming out. You're not going to have a very good position here. So he decides to bring his knight out using the move to attack the queen, but he misses the fact that after these few trades his king is now running naked, and it's just a matter of time bringing your other pieces into the attack before white is able to checkmate. Funny enough, black got himself checkmated by willingly moving himself to certain squares. For example, here you could defend mate by simply bringing your queen here. Of course, you are still going to lose this game some way, somehow, or one way or another. But I mean, this just helps you survive a little bit more. But I think he just got tired of the game and just said, "Kill me now," and that was it. So again, like I said, spicy move. Now the mistake here made by black was his failure to identify the the aggression or the idea of the opening. And the second thing was he moved one knight too many times. He moved this knight too many times, and that is not how you play the opening. The best way to play the opening is to develop as many pieces as you can and not the same piece twice. So that's why you learn opening principles. Don't move the same piece twice. It helps you a lot. So now let's move on to the next game, which is a game between David George and Brian Murimi. So let's see how this goes. We have e4, knight c6, d4, d5, e5, bishop to f5, c3, looking like a French defense, I guess. Yeah, looking like a French defense, except we don't have c5. So yeah. e6, knight to f3, knight g to e7, bishop to e3, h6, bishop to e2, bishop to h7. Now not much has really happened here in this position. What we can say about this position is that white is very, very active. White has more space as compared to black. Black is more confined to the 6th rank, except for this pawn. He's confined to the 6th rank, sort of like a hedgehog. This is not a hedgehog, but white has more space and is more likely to create more threats on black. Now some ideas of white are simply queen here, targeting this guy. That's just a one move threat. It doesn't really do much, but you can bring your queen out here, you can bring your knight here, or you can slow play it. You can even just castle here. Anything is fine. Of course, you can also try to go aggressive with something like g4, h4, g5. All your pieces, your farthest push pawn is towards the king side, and usually you want to attack where your farthest push pawn is. The direction of the farthest push pawn tells you the direction of your attack. So white has a lot of potential on the king side, but making a move like g4, h4 might not be advisable now because black hasn't clarified that he'd want to castle king side. In fact, looking at the position, it's more clear that he might be going queen side because he has just 2 moves to castle queen side and about 3 moves to castle king side. So possibly the best move here would be queen here, putting pressure, and then going for a4, a5, a6, and that would help. Or that you could just use this move to coax your opponent to move towards the king side, so you can now strike with g4, g5, and your king stays in the center. Okay, so we have queen b3, like we said, rook to b8, d4. So he goes for my idea here. Castles would have been just fine. There's nothing wrong with g4 also, but the problem is that your opponent hasn't chosen that he would castle king side. Though if white does indeed go with this plan, it's perfectly fine. Now we have knight b to d2, bishop to e7, h4. The pawn isn't hanging, the knight and the rook defend the pawn, and then we have knight to b6. So it seems like black's potential of attack is on the queen side. If you look at the direction of all his pieces, they are towards the queen side. So it's going to be a strange game because if white were to succeed on his attack here, it's more dangerous as compared to if black were to succeed with his attack here. So I was thinking that black would do much better to try and hold this off before trying something, because this is a lot of aggression coming at him and he's moving pieces away from the defense of his king, which is very dangerous. So now we have knight to f1 here, bishop to e4. Okay, so I actually should have mentioned this. Knight to f1 here is not very, very accurate. It's an okay move, but it's not so accurate. Why isn't it so accurate? First of all, this knight does a very good job of defending the square from this knight coming in to invade, because this bishop is a defender. Don't forget, this bishop is a defender of the g5 square, which white would like to move to. So moving your knight away from here allows this knight into the position, and another thing it does is that it allows this bishop into this position. Now both these moves do something significant in that they attack the pieces that defend the crucial square that white would want it to get to. I don't think black would want to trade off this bishop, because this is a very good bishop. It slices through if white ever goes queenside, which white probably would go queenside. So possibly just g4 here, just g5 here is a very good move. H takes, and king to d7, trying to get out of the back rank and from any sort of moves like this, or even bishop sacrifice. After bishop takes, then you take back with check. That's if the king was on e8. So yeah, just g5 immediately made a lot of sense. But I think he just wanted to transfer more pieces towards the king side in case of, I really don't know why, but this was just fine. So knight to f1 and then bishop to e4, knight to g3, bishop takes f3, bishop takes f3. So this is a normal trade. It's a trade of pieces, a good trade of pieces, but you've just lost the potential of pushing this pawn, and that's where the problem comes in. That's where the problem comes in for white. So now black is okay. At first there was a lot of pressure, but now black is okay, funny enough. And again, this knight coming in here is still a problem. So now we have bishop takes h4, very nice. The pawn is hanging now since the knight left that square. Knight to h5, attacking g7. Rook to g8, queen to c2, maneuvering his pieces towards the king side. Bishop to g5, going for a trade, and he just allows it. Queen to h7, he's like, capture the bishop on my terms, open up the file. Basically, that's what he wants. If you could open up the file at castle queen side, place my rooks on maybe f and g, and then attack you on the attack your king side. So yeah, this is just a very bad way to respond to this. Playing king to f8 just puts your king in a very bad position. He might be okay here, but bishop to e2, again, like I said, re-maneuvering his pieces to a better squares, which is very nice to see that he could actually do this. And now bishop takes. Funny enough, Engine likes bishop takes when I went through this game, but the reason a little bit hectic to accept bishop takes is simply because you've opened the file. You've simply opened the file. Of course, one of the issues is that I think if you could actually trade off these bishops to your advantage, then you could get some sort of attack like this. But I just feel like this kind of move is not something you should allow. Okay, now the queen comes in. It's still not a big deal. Knight remaneuvers itself. Knight to f4, and then queen to e7. This move just doesn't. You brought the queen in and you send the queen back, and now that's the same error we saw in the first game, moving the same piece once or more than once for no particular reason, not a good reason. So that doesn't really work. And then we have rook to f1. Now rook to f1 is, I mean, the idea of the move is clear. You want to play check here and fork the king and the queen, and then just win the queen. So it's a very clear idea, but what it does is that it allows black to sort of reduce the strength of your moves. We have something like check here, whether your king moves here or here. Now it's just becoming more open for you to create some sort of attack. Okay, this might not even work, but it becomes a little bit more easy for you to create something against your opponent. This king could at some point even run away. You could even play something like this, extra defense. So many things could happen in this position, but sadly enough, actually this move is not good, but sadly enough, rook to f1 is not really the best move. Actually, the funniest move here, or the best move here, is castle's king side. When the engine said this, I was in awe. I mean, it makes perfect sense. Now the queen can't come in with check, and you are threatening the same ideas, and yeah. But after this, we have king to d2, and then knight to e7, which is a blunder. Now you are bringing your pieces back to defend, but it's already too late. Takes, knight takes e6, king to e8, knight takes g7 check, king to d7, rook takes f7, queen to g5, and then knight to f5. Rook g to f8, and then rook takes e7. Now this is where black resigned, but the point is, no matter what black does here, he's just lost. If you trade off the queen to try and survive, no matter where your king moves, you can simply just take here, and when he comes back, you just continue the process and just end up checkmating him one way or the other. Or simply put, you have too much materials compared to your opponent, and you're just gonna win. Yeah, so a very sad game for Brian, but a very nice attack from David. He did very well. He kept the center locked, which enabled this attack to work. Usually when you want to attack your opponent, you have to make sure the center is locked. If the center is loose, and then you make this sort of barrage kind of attack, especially when your king is not so safe, then it's very risky. But he kept the center locked, went for his attack, succeeded, and got a very good game. And we are rushing through it, so let's go to the next game. Here we have John Allotey versus Tira Emed. I want to give this video at least 30 minutes or below. And let's go. We have e4, e5, knight to c3, knight to f3, knight to f6, knight to f3, knight to c6. We have a 4 knights, an Italian 4 knights, or a Jacob piano. Bishop to c4, bishop to c5, h3, d6, d3. So another symmetrical position. If you recall our previous video, we had a symmetrical position like this. I think Maoli Richardson versus Wafa Hamed, and yeah, it was just the higher rated player playing copycat against a lower rated player and ended up biting him back. But let's see what happens here. Again, the ratings are not posted. Some of them are, these guys are unrated. So bishop to e6, bishop takes e6, f takes e6. Now I always believe this is very good for whoever gets it, because getting this break means a lot. Of course you have to get your king safe, but this move is usually very good for whoever can get it. This should be good for black. I'll say black is okay here. Like black is just fine here, especially with this kind of idea. Another thing is that you have castles here and your rook is already ready and trained. If you look at this bishop and this rook, I read a book, I've forgotten by whom, on attacking, and it focused on bishop here and then h3 and the potential attacks you can get from it. So when I see things like that, I get happy, I get jiggly inside. Anyway, so bishop to g5, pinning, castles kingside, and now queen to e8. Again, simply transferring here. You could play pawn here, bishop takes, rook takes, and then like I said, you are already prepared to attack. We have bishop takes f6, rook takes f6, knight to a4, attacking the bishop, which is quite slow. Bishop to b6, you might not even have to save the bishop if you don't want to. Honestly speaking, I know what I said, but you honestly don't even really have to do that, because you have a move like this, and if your opponent takes, you can take here with check. Your opponent can take with his queen. So if you take this way, yeah, you can always take this way, or you can start with your check here, and this is just good for black. So there's no real reason to want to take to want to save your bishop and open the file. I mean, you could just go aggressive here and you're still doing well. We have knight takes b6, a takes b6, a3, queen to h5, very good, knight to h2, not bad. Queen to g5, queen to g4, offering a trade of queens, queen to h6, and then queen to d1. This doesn't make any sense, because now you're offering for a trade of queens, your opponent declined the trade of queens. You should try to create some sort of defensive line. Maybe you'd want to be like knight here, and after rook comes in here, then you come in here and offer another trade of queens. I get that it allows your opponent to infiltrate, which is a little bit scary. But moving the queen all the way back doesn't really seem to be the most accurate thing to do. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But yeah, queen to d1, very, very questionable move. Maybe queen to e2 would have been far better than queen to d1. And now we have rook to g6 and then king to h1. Rook f8 and then knight to g4, attacking the queen. And now we have queen to h4 and then king to h2, which is basically where white's problems begin. One of the ways to defend this is to simply push the pawn. Granted, you are creating a lot of dark square weaknesses, but also take note of the fact that there are no bishops in this game, so it's going to be very difficult for black to prove anything with the queen, especially since you don't have much to attack with it. The knight could come in, but it's not going to be easy for this knight to infiltrate. It's going to be very difficult to see how black proves an advantage with this sort of position, but black is definitely for choice here. So king h2, simply planning to push this way, but then we have h5 attacking the knight, and then we have g3 supposedly attacking the queen. Queen goes back, knight jumps to e3, and simply rook takes f2 check. And you think this is a sacrifice, or this is a blunder, but this is a sacrifice. Sorry, you think this is a blunder, but this is a sacrifice. A very nice combination here seen by Tira Emed. Rook takes and then queen takes g3 check, and this begins a series of moves that makes black for choice. So now king to h1, queen takes f2, preparing okay, there's no checkmate yet, but preparing to bring in more pieces, and which will help in the checkmate. We have queen to e1, defending the knight, but then we have queen to f3 check, king to h2. If possibly you could get this queen or this knight out of the board, these moves could be checkmate. So what black does here is very interesting. He goes knight to d4 first. He goes to he plays rook to c1 and then knight to e2. Knight to e2 now opens avenues for like the knight could come in here, opens avenues for more checks and checkmates. So if the knight were to come in this way, you are already threatening checkmate here, which is very good. We have rook to d1. White actually assumed that he was trying to take the rook, which wasn't really his intention. And now queen takes. So the knight does two things. It blocks the connection and at the same time threatens the the checkmating idea. And now we have queen takes e3. The knight no longer defends these key squares. Queen rook to d2, piling up an attack on the knight, but he misses the important point here. Queen to f4 check, king to h1, queen to f3 check, king to h2, and then queen to g2 checkmate. So that whole wraparound was just to get this king to this square, no longer defended by the knight, so that he could get checkmate. Very, very nice game. And the final game we are going to look at today is between Jeremiah Adjetey and Abdullah Emed. Abdallah Emed or Abdullah Emed. Okay, I'm going to the end of the game. Sorry about that. Let's go all the way to the start. That was very bad. Anyway, so we have a g3 opening. g3, knight to f6, bishop to g2, g6, c3, c5, d4, c takes d4, c takes d4, d5, bishop to g5, bishop to g7, bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, e3, e6, knight to c3, knight to d7. I just like to stop at castles most often. Knight to f3 and then a6. a6 is a very funny move, but I mean the only thing a6 hints at is that black will sort of play b5 or b6 and put his bishop here and hopefully get a break that opens up his bishop. But yeah, that's about it for this move. This position is very equal. There's not really much going on. Again, comparing pieces, white's pieces are far better, but there's not really much for white to prove a very dominant advantage. Maybe you could wait for castles and then h4, h5 your opponent. I mean, what do grandmasters do when they have nothing more to do? So castles kingside, and then b5, rook to c1, very nice move, putting your rook on the only open file. Possibly you could start a queenside assault there with starting moves like this, minority attack if you can, but it's a very symmetrical pawn structure, so not so much that. Bishop to b7, b3, castles kingside, rook to e1. Okay, so now rook to e1 is sort of hinting at this sort of move, but I doubt it's going to happen. Rook f to c8, knight to e2, queen to e7, queen to d2, b4, locking things down. Now this is going to serve as a very, very nice outpost for this knight if this knight could ever get there. So if you look at the route, I think we have 1, 2, 3. Nope, how do we get here? Yeah, it's covered for now. For now it's covered, but if black can find a way to get his knight to this square, this is a very nice output for the black knight. So it's a plan that you can think about in the future. We have rook to c2. Very strange move, because I mean the rooks are just standing there. There's not really much to do about this position. You could try and figure out something to do on the king side. Again, h4, h5 is always a very nice idea here. You could play your knight into this square, which is usually an idea, but it doesn't work here. You could try and remaneuver your other knight to a better square, but there's really not much to go on. Actually, they can agree to a draw in this exact position, but I mean, so you have rook to c2 trying to create a battery on this file, and then rook e to c1, queen to d6, knight to f4. Very nice, like we said, trying to maneuver pieces to other squares. So just as black wants to get here, white wants to get here. It's as fine as that. Rook to c6, also preparing to do his doubling. Knight to d3, rook f to c8, rook takes. Maybe not rook takes immediately. Maybe you want to play your knight here first and try and see what black does. That could also work. So takes, rook takes, queen takes, and queen, offering a queen trade. Very, very iffy move. Again, you could, I guess he's afraid of playing, for example, okay, yeah, he loses a pawn here and also opens up the opponent's position. So yeah, very good move by him. Yeah, very good move by him. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with that move. Queen to c1, offering a trade of queens, and now the queen plops itself in c3. I mean, you could also just have taken. I mean, you could have just taken, for example, knight takes here. Sorry, after queen takes queen. Sorry, queen takes queen, knight takes, and then just play something like bishop here, and just suffocate this knight for a bit. It's not really a very big advantage, but I can suffocate the knight for a bit. And who would enjoy something like this? This knight is going to be stuck for a while. He can't bring the king easily to defend the position. He might have to offer a trade of bishops, and that's actually advantageous for black, because if these bishops get traded off, it's knight and bishop versus bishop. It's knight and bishop versus two knights, and you have a dark squared bishop, and most of white's pawns are on dark squares, so black would have an advantage. Of course, this is not really a problem. It's easily drawn, but yeah, again, we're talking about possible outcomes. And then we have queen to c1, which is kind of strange here. You should just trade off. Again, there's not really much your opponent can do. There's no rooks to defend the queen, so this pawn can easily be got back, I guess, unless of course I'm making a mistake. I doubt it, but yeah, I get it. Don't make that kind of risk. But this queen is in a very awkward square, very dangerous square, which maybe white can exploit it at some point in time. So bishop to a6, queen takes c3, pawn takes c3, bishop to f1, bishop to e7, knight to c1, offering the trade of bishops. Bishop takes, and yeah, okay, so now this proves that my move was bad, because this can easily now be defended by the bishop. This pawn can be defended by the bishop. I think at first it wasn't so easily defended because the bishop hadn't yet gone back. But yeah, this is the same idea that defends the pawn. My endgames suck. But yeah, so this pawn can easily be defended, and then black has enough time to maneuver his king to the defensive position here and push his advantage on the king side, on the queen side. So very nice idea here by black. Black seeing the opportunity and going for it. But he plays knight to b6. We have king to e2, a4, king to d3, attacking the pawn, and king to g7. That's an interesting move. You'd expect something like bishop here, trying to hold the position. I mean, after pawn push here, attacking the bishop, you can just take back. And after king takes, pawn takes, yeah, this is just drawn. So yeah, at this allowing white to get this move is quite scary, because you can just take here with the king, you can take the pawn with the king, and if takes, now you are the only one with the pass pawn. So white is the one with the pass pawn, and black is now on the defensive. We have king to g7, king takes c3, king to f6, king to d2. This is very slow by black. Black is not playing the very good moves here. We have king to f5, knight to d3, very good. King to e4, and then king to e2. So a funny thing here is that white is defending black's threat when black should be defending white's threat, which is very funny here. Like, sincerely speaking, you could just push this pawn and then hold it with this other pawn if you wanted to, and then plop your knight here and then kind of disturb black on this side, because you are the only one with the pass pawn on the queen side, and that would be sort of okay for you as white. But it seems both of them are kind of scared of both ideas, and they are defending against each other. So fine, king to e2, a takes, f6, f6, knight to c5, bishop takes c5, d takes c5, knight to c8, c6, e5, g4, h5, knight to g5 check. So this h5 move was basically a screw up by black, because black missed knight to g5. The point of knight to g5 is, if you take my knight, I simply play f3, checkmate. Your king has nowhere to go, and this is simply checkmate. And if you try to ignore my knight to move your king, oh wait, you can't move your king. So this is also still checkmate. There's literally nothing that black can do in this position. Whew, that was a long one. I know I missed some lines. Of course, there were blunders that were thrown about. f6, there's a problem here, because we have simply knight to h4, and we are threatening checkmate here. Of course, that was there. I know I didn't mention it, but the point is, I'm trying to get as many games out, and I'm not usually good at doing these kind of long analysis games. I'm getting used to them very soon. I'll take every single point I should, and yeah, it'll be fun. But I want to get as many games as I can and as many videos out as I can, because there are so many games I have to analyze. I think about over 500 games, I guess. So yeah, again, I'm making excuses, but sorry about that. We will continue, not with part 1. We'll not make a part 3 of round 1. We'll just continue on with round 2, and I'll cherry pick most of the games. I might pick 5 or 10 games, just do a part 1, part 2 for each round if possible. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you like some of the spicy games that we showed here. The analysis is a little bit lackluster as compared to the singular analysis videos that I usually make, because that one I have enough time to look through all the games one by one, look for every king, make notes, even write a script, so on and so forth. But yeah, I don't do that much for this. I look through the games, I try and see the common errors that come in place, and then I just record the video. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, if you enjoyed the video, consider hitting the subscribe button. I stream Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays on twitch.tv/pen_mason. We're always having a very cool time there. We're always having a very fun time there. London system rules. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.